So we're talking about relationship with alcohol,
Yeah.
and at some point, many drinkers get the concept of cutting down. Okay,
Yeah.
cutting down. So we've got dry January, which is, I guess, it's still cutting down, isn't it? You're not stopping. You're not drinking for January. You're cutting down.
Yeah, it's part of the overall cutting down,
yes.
isn't it? You stop for a given period of time.
Which is, and then you talked in your book about the relationship as well. So you find a girlfriend, and then it's like, I need to kind of rein it in, or maybe I've gone a bit. So what's your experience of cutting down?
Well, I quite often did the dry January and failed really, but I didn't make it the whole way through. I found a reason. I think what stopped me. I think if I'm going to cut down, I have to re-educate myself, and so I need to start drinking again to show that I can do it properly. Cutting down. I mean, it's a complete false logic. I know.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I had in my head.
Order to,
I had in my head that the point of dry January was as a long-term way to reduce your intake.
Yeah.
And so the sooner I got.
I
got into the drinking at a lower level.
Yeah.
That was the start of my new lower level drinking life.
Brilliant. So stopping actually facilitated in your mind when you start again at a low level.
Exactly. How well put. But that, to me, meant that I didn't necessarily have to go the full 31 days of January. And in fact, when it got to 20th day, I thought, well, I better get on with my life now. The new life of not drinking as much.
Of a bit less.
Which it didn't,
and
really
how did that,
didn't work, because I went straight back to drinking exactly what I did before. I probably went, I don't think it made any. I would say I probably every time went straight back to where I was before.
Okay, so can I be bold here?
Yeah.
So this is the first kind of real lie that a drinker comes across.
Yeah.
It's dry January. I'm not going to drink for January.
Yeah.
And then you go, after a couple of weeks, you think, well, actually, there's not much point, really, stopping for another 2 weeks. I've done 2 weeks. I've shown that I can, not drink.
Exactly.
So I'm not doing too bad. I'm obviously in control. I'm obviously not desperate alcoholic. I haven't got a huge problem with this thing. I function quite well.
Yeah.
I've done 2 weeks. Look, I feel quite good, actually.
Yeah.
I feel quite good. I feel quite healthy.
Yeah.
I might as well start drinking halfway through January because I'm obviously going to drink. I'm not going to. I'm not going to be a non-drinker. I mean, what's like that?
Yeah.
I'm going to. Quicker I get into drinking less.
Yes.
In a nice, controlled way, a nice, very mature way.
Yes.
I'm going to. So halfway through January, I start drinking again.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not the problem. I drink responsibly, I drink less, I drink in a nice controlled way. And then you're back to normal.
Yeah, you are back to normal.
And so that's the first, I would say that, yes, the first confrontation with how bloody difficult, or for many people, how impossible it is to cut down to a bit of drinking.
Yeah. I mean, at other occasions, I did better than that. And the dry January was a bit of a false one, I think, for me. And I ended up, did tell myself a bit of a lie. Others wouldn't do. Others would see it through to the end of January, but then do exactly the same things I did halfway through.
What's 2 weeks?
What's the difference? What's 2 weeks? What I did do quite successfully, and it's a sort of microcosm of when I later successfully gave up alcohol completely. Once I kind of got into my head that drinking for the sake of the taste of the alcohol was what I needed to do, and I enjoyed, and I accepted that. I had a much better time of controlling my intake than any other dry January where I just sort of stopped completely for a rigid period of time. I said to myself, I will drink just one glass, quite a big glass, of wine, as it happened, per day.
Yeah.
And I'll not have any more than that.
Yeah.
And the other rule was, if I was going out, it would be no more than half a bottle of wine. Half a bottle.
Yes.
That's it. I would only, that's the only drink I would have. No beer, no spirits.
And you managed to do that fairly easily because you focused on the taste as opposed to the concept of how much I'm drinking or drinking drunk or am I this or am I that. You focused on the taste. So it's a sort of narrowing down of your focus. And it
happened because I got into a bit of trouble with an argument with Jane. I drank too much and I had that awful moment when she said to me, we need to talk about your drinking, which is why every drinker, they're like anything like me, dreads and fears it. We need to talk about your drinking because the cat is out of the bag then, you're in trouble. And I needed to, and this was my way of dealing with my drinking.
So you did the thing that drinkers want to do, which is to be able to cut down.
Yes.
And you did cut down.
Yes.
And so what happened?
So it all went really well, and I thought, do you know what? I don't know why I haven't done this before.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm really, wine is meant to be drunk with food, and I swilled it round, and I did all the kind of thing. I thought, God, it tastes lovely, and the food. I taste the red wine and food, and I thought, this is marvellous.
Yes.
And I can really enjoy it. I slowed down, and I got to it, and of course, food is puts a bit of a brake on your desire for alcohol anyway, because you fill yourself up. You do it to get anyway. It just worked. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah.
Go out a huge amount during that time. I didn't go out to big parties or pubs. I didn't test it very heavily.
Okay.
But I did test it for long enough to decide that I'd really cracked it. And then somebody told me they got me a ticket for Glastonbury.
Okay. So it did work for a bit. Now, let's say we'll talk about Glastonbury later, but something happens where then the question is, is it really reasonable, logical, or possible, doable to get into this thing where you become a sort of wine connoisseur, and you're drinking for the taste, drinking with food, not drinking that much, glass here, that goes along quite nicely. Yeah. And the question is, the $6 million question is that, is that actually doable? Now, Glastonbury came along, and blew it out of the water. Yeah.
But the answer to your question is yes, it is doable. But for how long? It's doable it's all about desire. If you can train your desire, I mean, to deal with unwanted desires, you have to unwant them. That's the shock of it, and that's a problem. But if you get into, for whatever reason, something happens, something bad happens, and you sort of have to readdress your situation, and you suddenly find that you have a desire to cut down. There's no reason why you couldn't go on with that forever.
But you didn't, though. And you didn't go back to. I mean, obviously you've had your journey, and you didn't go back to think, I could go back to that.
No, once I'd gone back to the old level, there was no way I could get. I couldn't turn that switch on and off very easily. Right. I had good reason to cut down, and I had and that gave me the desire. That desire was there. But once I'd lost that desire because of Glastonbury, I then couldn't go back.
Okay, so my point is this then. At that point, getting a bit technical here maybe, but at that first point where you thought, I can do this glass of wine business, I can do this, swinging it around the taste. That's actually, that isn't available to you all the time. It was a kind of one-off thing. It was part of your journey.
It's part of my journey.
Because once you exploded it, it's very hard, as you say, it was hard to get back to. So, what I'm saying, it's not a normal. It's for an alcoholic just to go down to cutting down, the occasional nice glass of wine. That's possibly a bit of a fantasy.
It is really.
You went through that. Yeah. Once it exploded and went to
because there'll always be a wedding or somebody's party or somebody will get you to drink more than you intended.
So I think that's a bit of a fantasy.
It is really.
You at the time you thought, I can do this, and maybe but it didn't last very long, and it went to shit, and then it got even harder to go back to that thing. So I'm just wondering, is that really a reasonable state for basically an alcoholic to say, I can cut down and I can have a glass of
Well, it's not an alcoholic because, if you say for an alcoholic to cut down, you immediately say to a whole group of people who drink heavily, "Oh, that's not me. I'm not alcoholic."
Okay,
so I can cut
someone
down.
who's had 30 years of difficulty with drinking,
or drinking too much,
whatever you want to, whatever the terminology, that person, you or whatever, then saying, "I can do this cutting down business," and maybe they can't. Maybe it's just too difficult.
Well, the evidence just isn't there, is it? You don't see people. You don't get people going to AA, for example, who say, "Look, this isn't for me, guys. I'm just going to carry on drinking a little bit under control." It just doesn't work. They don't come back 10 years later saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm doing it all work really well." It just doesn't happen. If you've got a problem with drinking too much, it isn't going to be solved by just one day thinking, "I can cut down on this." You've got to change your relationship with this stuff, completely change it. If you see it as desirable in any shape or form, it's likely to go wrong.
And that fantasy idea of being able to drink that isn't strong enough. That isn't it isn't a radical enough change in your relationship.
I don't think
it's a little clever little.
I tried it and it failed. When the Glastonbury thing absolutely blew it out of the water. Yes, blew it completely. Because I said to myself, I'm going to let myself. I'm not going to let Glastonbury worry me. The festival. I'm going to give myself a week off the regime. I'm going to just let myself do what can go wrong. In a field.
I think that Glastonbury thing, it was in a response to the fact that you'd still been drinking. That's my view. I might be wrong, but that you wouldn't have had this explosive Glastonbury. You wouldn't even wanted to do that if you hadn't been still.
Oh yeah, that's right. I totally agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I've been to Glastonbury twice since giving up alcohol, and I've adored it.
There you go.
I haven't wanted. It didn't cross my mind.
There you go. So this period, this fantasy period of I'm cutting down and I'm drinking less. Yeah. I'm saying absolutely sets up the crazy Glastonbury period or the problem, whatever. It's not the other way around. You're not like, I was going quite well actually. Oh, and then this thing happened, Glastonbury, or my mum died, or the wedding, or whatever, or broke the leg, whatever it is, or I
messed up at
or I got a new fantastic job, or whatever it is. Yeah. That event, which makes it all go tits up, is as a result of the fact that you have still been drinking over a period of time. Yes. And you prove that to yourself, because when you have stopped completely, change the relationship and the whole thing, you can have terrible days or fantastic days or Glastonbury or getting a new job or losing a job or whatever. Yeah. And you don't drink. No. You don't commiserate, or you don't celebrate, you don't drink. It just isn't there. Because you've changed your relationship. Yeah. You haven't been drinking.
Alcohol's not going to help or make worse. Well, it's going to make worse, but alcohol's not going to provide any solutions to that. It's just going to make them worse. It's going to add to the...
That's my point, yes. That alcohol makes it more difficult to do all the other stuff.